In all the years that you've been doing this, how, obviously we talked about the example of deep learning coming into the picture and then being able to use that to approximate some functions. What else has changed? I mean, in terms of programming languages you might use, or even the way that you solve problems in general. Maybe today that we have more compute, we have more storage, maybe you can approach problems in a very different way than you would have when you started your career.
Yeah, so there's that, and as well as the problems that we work on. And I think that what's really emerged is that, last mile delivery, if you go back 25 years, well, what did that mean? That means that maybe it was the dawn of the internet, but you might have still been getting a catalog and, calling in, ordering something. It somehow moves through the system and it ended up at a UPS or a FedEx. And so at the beginning of that day, they could say, okay, these are the packages we have to deliver today. And they would deliver that. And so in that sense, you had sort of this beginning of the morning problem where I knew everything I was going to know for the day. Right. And so, we talked about Concord. You had systems like that were actually pretty effective if you wanted to solve that particular problem. There were operational challenges to updating your routing every day, but, the companies were really good at that. As we fast forward and you start to get same day delivery, you get the meal delivery platforms, you get sort of increasing, Uber type technologies, we've really seen an explosion in these new models of transportation that have honestly made this a really exciting time. Some of the listeners may not agree that that's exciting from a research.
I hope some of them did, because that's why I picked you to be on the show.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's interesting. When somebody says logistics to me, for some reason, at a distance, that word doesn't excite me like some other words in technology might. Mm-hmm. But in fact, it is fascinating. It's such a complex problem, and it impacts probably all of our listeners many times a day.
It's almost certainly impacting them many times a day. And, it's related as well to supply chain. And we know that, particularly during the pandemic, that had an incredible, impact on many people's lives as well, when we, couldn't get goods and
couldn't get a couch.
Yeah, you couldn't get a couch or toilet paper or whatever it was, right? And so that, that supply chain would have, certainly there were manufacturing issues that were going on, but there were also logistical issues, like how am I going to move this through the system? Do you have the capacity or not to also move this from one place to another and ultimately to your end, consumer? And that, so that logistics part does play a role in that. And as you mentioned, particularly in this day and age, I don't know how many times a day the Amazon trucks are coming down my street, but it's significant. And, so we are seeing it every single day. And I appreciate that you found something interesting in there.
Yeah.